everybody. Welcome to Getting Hard Podcast. I am Tim, and Jen will be with us shortly. She is tending to something, and we have a special guest for you this week. Sitting across the table from me is Dave Burns.
Yo.
How you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad.
Yeah?
Pretty chill day, yeah. Nice and warm.
So Dave comes from Thy Flesh Consume fame from way back in the day. In fact, he actually used to play in one of the first metal bands I remember going to see in the Halifax scene, and then also he's in a band with me right now.
I'm old.
He's old. He said that. You don't look a day over 50, Dave.
Well, I'm 42, so I hope that fucking.
Yeah, so what's new anyways?
Well, we're writing music for another album.
Yep, we are.
And it's a little bit of a slow pace right now, but we're getting the bugs worked out, and we're trying to put out a couple of songs, and then after that we're going to go for a full length. So
yeah, we're doing
looking up and busy on that aspect. Still got to write some songs on my end, but progress is being made, and that's the important thing when you're in a band, is at least if you're making some progression.
Yep, you got to do something.
Yeah.
And the older we get, the harder it gets.
Yeah. Can't live off the laurels of songs of yore. You got to make new shit, right?
Exactly. Well, we got a good list of songs too for Built for Sin, but like you said, you can't just keep putting out that same shit.
No, and another thing too is you can't just keep pumping out songs. I mean, you can if you can create it, and if it's there, let it flow. But if you want to pump out songs just for the sake of it, you're going to end up sounding redundant and ridiculous, like many bands do. I think that's a problem with a lot of bands that are signed or something. They get to a situation where they're told that you have to put out another album, or we require this in your contract, and they're
not ready for it.
Or let's face it, as we all know, as musicians, either. There's two types of musician I find in this world, and there's the ones that got the day job, and they're super, they're really good with they're really ambitious, they have a good career or whatever, and they, finding the time to do these kinds of things and expand. Sometimes it's not as easier said. It's easier said than done. Yep. And then the other ones are, typical lazy musicians like I used to be, where you just kind of don't have you dilly-dally, and then the time comes. And so for these bands that are signed,
everybody gets in ruts, right, and those ruts are meant to be.
The pressure's on, and they just push something out. So I'm glad there's a little bit of time taken there.
Yep.
But it does feel like it's definitely due, so it's time to get that pushed out. And
we'll get this 3-tracker out, and exactly. Like you said, we're already what. We're all pretty well half an album in on writing.
Oh, more than that.
So,
I think we're
having said that,
5-6 songs past the 3 we got recorded. So
yeah, we're accelerating for sure. I'm pretty excited about it, man. Especially getting out and doing some shows this summer, man. It's going to be amazing.
It is a little overdue, but still, I'd rather take the time and have a solid product than, like I said, push it out. So.
Yeah, and then baby slowed me down. I mean, my littlest one's 1.5 years, so she'll be moved out here soon.
You're looking good for having kids.
And then I know, actually, I'm getting rid of the baby fat.
I can tell.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever had it.
Pretty good. I mean, I avoided it pretty well, actually.
You did? Good job, sir.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so it's, the older you get, the more shit you get on your plate.
And by plate, you mean midsection?
Of course, I'm adding shit on my plate like a podcast, but
yeah, man. Well, hobbies are this is a good thing to have. It's informative for people outside of the city that want to know about the scene.
It's not all selfish either. There's a small bit of selflessness in this where I want to see our city increase the amount of production that happens.
Well,
I want to
that's
see more
why
bands put shit out. I want to be able to get those bands. That's why I've been trying to promote the shows, just the local shows that are around, just mostly East Coast for right now. Any shows I see in Moncton, St. John's, Halifax, Cape Breton, I've been trying to push them. Every episode on the pod, I'll usually do a plug for whatever shows I know that's going on. And I've been doing that because that's kind of one of my purposes really, was to get more awareness of the fact that Halifax is a fucking metal city, and it always goddamn has been.
And it needs more exposure. There are many bands in this city that don't get the exposure I personally think they deserve, and I'm not trying to be biased here. I mean, we all know when it comes to a scene in your city, wherever you are, there's your favorite bands, and then there's a few stinkers out there, you know. But
yeah,
everybody
there's some that
knows
need more work.
Yeah, well, less killer or less filler, more killer would be nice. But
Yeah.
some bands are just they stand apart. They divide themselves away from others by putting the hard work into their music and stuff like that, and trying to be creative. They sometimes take steps back and then move forward because that's what you need to do. And like this city needs more exposure. It needs something to get out there, and this is great. This what you're doing is
like if you were to sit and be, well, what kind of music is Halifax known for? And it's like folk,
fiddle music,
which is fine. That's part of our
stuff
heritage.
where you kick your legs a lot and jump in the air,
But I've always,
but your hands stay still.
Since I was a youngster, I would say probably 18, have known about and went to see shows where there was hard, extreme metal bands playing.
Oh yeah,
and
there was you know what? There's been a extreme metal scene in this city for far beyond
my years.
Before a lot of people that are in their 30s now in the city are aware of, like, you know, old Existench or Entrafist.
Well, that's what I was going to say about
Dichotic,
Existench was
and,
like those guys
I'm
have
throwing
been
some
around
names
for
out there,
ever.
but Dichotic was intensely insane with the progression compared to other bands.
And then what about
back in that time.
Terratomb? When were they formed?
Terratomb, oh geez, I think that was something that was kind of like
Is that
floating
right
around
around
in Sydney back in the day. See, yeah, because I'm from Myra up in Cape Breton, I know some people in the Sydney scene too.
Yeah.
For many years, I've, you know, actually, it's funny. I met Ross Vickers, the bass player for Die Flesh Consume, when I was living in Spryfield here in Halifax, and it was catching the bus home, and there was only two people in the bus stop, and it was me and Ross. I didn't know who this guy was, and he's got long hair and trench coat. And I was a guy with long hair and a metal shirt, so I was like, okay, this guy's cool. He's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, nothing much. He's like, want to see something cool? I was like, sure. And he has this like thing rolled up, this flat surface, you know, well, it's not flat, but it's a roll, and he flattens it out, and it's all knives. Like it was a knife case.
Jesus,
and I'm just like,
are you going to kill
what
me?
the? I was like at a bus stop alone with this other guy, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is where I die, Mumford Terminal, right? And funny, yeah. But anyways, he's like, no, I'm a chef, right? And I play in this band, Terratomb, and then I was like, oh, cool, like, you're not going to kill me. But, you know, I would have put up a fight.
Yep.
Hear that, Ross? But anyways, yeah, that's where I met Ross from Terratomb, and then after that, we started hanging out, and we were down at Cornwallis Street. Now, that was a hub back in the day. It was also a shithole, but it was a hub like for a lot of bands, not just metal bands, but for like a lot of rock bands.
You mean like apartment-wise?
No, it was it was similar to the standard jam spot where you have several rooms in a commercial type setting. In this case, it was in the basement of an old building that was barely used. I think it was slated to be torn down. Eventually, we all got the boot, and they did tear it down and turn it into condos. But back in the day, there used to be a lot of really good bands in there. Like I could just remember there was the Heel Walkers for one. They were pretty big in the city back in around that time, and they used to do the Wednesday night open mic at the down in Hell's Kitchen.
Okay.
And so there was always a crowd there.
Man, I love that bar.
Man, that was a good time. And so, you know, you can reminisce and then say that the scene now is not as good as it used to be. It's more, there are more bands, but quality is not necessary, or quantity is not quality, sorry.
No.
But there's still a lot of bands, so you get to pick and choose, and that's something we didn't have back in the day, which brings me to my next thing is, when we did a show back then, the scene here was so small that you had punk and metal bands playing together because there was no other.
There wasn't
enough metal bands or not enough punk bands. So I think how many? What does that require? 3, 4?
Well, that actually probably.
If you played the weekend before, you wouldn't want to play the weekend after.
Yeah.
So out of the 4 or 5 metal bands that were in the city, you took turns doing shows, and eventually you start getting stuck on the same bills.
The guy who sings for Existench is kind of a punk guy too.
Derek McAlone, D-Rock.
So he's always been in punk bands as well, has he?
That
not?
guy's like the godfather of punk in the city, or he's definitely a fixture in that scene.
Yeah. I know he's been around for a while.
Britton, and they used to play. He's been in so many ridiculous amount of bands. He's been in so many bands that he's actually been in a band called Captain Reverend Rhubarb Bungee-Cock and the Apocalyptic Butt Slugs.
And the fact that you can remember that, you get
how could you forget it?
For me.
How could you forget it? It was awesome. I thought
That's
when
amazing.
I heard we were having a couple of beers at a after party one time, and he's like, "Check this out," and he always had this tape deck, and everything was on fucking tape, and he would blast it, and he's like, "Check this out, check this out." We had called him a stereo Nazi a couple of times, and of course he didn't like that because he hates Nazis. But anyways,
well, who wouldn't?
you know, he's like, he's just like, "Check this out," and he's like, and he's like, he was in a band called Dogbite that was kind of like a Motorhead sounding kind of thing.
So he mixes it up quite a bit then.
Oh, he's an amazing
Because I'll tell you,
vocalist.
man, Existench is grindcore to the T.
Merciful Fate shit.
Oh,
like
nice.
King Diamond vocals.
Nice.
He used to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Him and a guy named Jay Quinn, and Ross and a couple of the other guys started a band where they were doing Merciful Fate covers, and it was amazing. And that was down in Cornwallis, man. Back then, it was a tight knit community, right? Like everybody was a band warrior, going down there on the weekends to get away and drink and jam, and people jam with other people. That's where I met. Well, I knew Gerald Smith for years because of like seeing him play and stuff, but never really sat down with him. And then we eventually started hanging around at Cornwallis, and I was kind of a lone wolf at that point. I had played in a couple of bands. I played in Burning Moon, which is an old school black metal band from this city. And there was
actually one of our bandmates was in Burning Moon.
Dan, yes.
Yeah. He didn't. So he wasn't in the formation of that band then.
No, Burning Moon was, I think, formed in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Back
See, I was
in
always
like
I never really talked to him much
early
about it.
'90s, like early to mid '90s, by a guy named.
So he would have still been in New Brunswick then at that point in time.
Oh yeah, he was still up in No Fundswick for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, I called it that. New Brunswick has got
friendly
some
rivalry.
Wicked. There's always rivalry between city to city, and even, but that's what you need. You know, you need that kind of.
We love you, New Brunswick.
Oh yeah, totally. No,
you
the
got
bands that come from there, like
you got all
Zom
the
and
trees.
Hard Charger, and it's a different scene, which is what you want. You know, when they come down here and mix it up, it's great.
Yeah.
Again, back to the old thing where back in the day, oh Jesus, oh there was not very many bands kicking around.
No,
I
you
try
had
to
to go
remember the
around.
band from Moncton. It's gonna drive me nuts right now. It was I can't remember.
And now
it
it's
was a
like
black metal band back
now it's
then.
like we have the opposite problem where there's not enough musicians because you got Stefan who's in 5 fucking bands.
Well, that's Stefan's choice. And, Steph, if you listen to this podcast, that's your own fucking fault. I don't feel sorry for people that are in 5 bands because if you didn't want to do it, you just wouldn't.
I think he loves
And he
it.
is a talented
I think he
individual,
loves it.
man.
Oh, is
That
he ever?
He's a great guy to the point where he's so nice to a fault. I'd like to say that maybe he just doesn't know how to say no because he's just a people
Maybe
person.
that's what it is. I should just ask him to join a band and see if he says yes.
I want to join my band. And he's like, oh. He gets nervous look and says no, and then wonders if your friendship's ruined. No, he's a good guy. He's
I love Stefan.
We need more people like
We
him
love you,
because
Stefan.
he's actually very super creative too. And that there's a lot of really. I could sit here and plagiarize every musician in the scene. Like there's a lot of people that have been working hard at this.
I
for a
swear
long
I'm
time.
like one of the only people. I think I'm one of the only people I can think of that is only in one band.
Yeah, no, I float in and out. I even played recently.
Right now,
with,
I guess you're. Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys are still doing Screaming for Wiener. I mean,
Screaming
Vengeance.
Screaming for Vengeance, yeah. It's on hiatus, but there's been talks.
It comes
getting it back
and
together,
goes.
And yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing to do. But
And
it's
for the
like-
folks at home, by the way, Screaming for Vengeance is obviously a Judas Priest tribute band.
yeah, we've done pretty good with that too. The
Yes.
very
Tight
first
as
show
fuck.
we played with another cover band, and we wanted to make it a good show, so we played with 2 Minutes to Maiden, which is the Iron Maiden cover band,
Which is
local
an
band.
excellent pair up.
They're awesome. Oh yeah. Anyways, so we played our first show with them, and when we did, we got off the stage, and Derek, the singer, not the same Derek, not Derek Magalone, but a different Derek. He looked at me and he said, I don't know how the fuck we're going to top that. And then then we headlined the second time. But it was just like, it was a awesome thing to like nail it, you know. We're pushing each other. And the guys in 2 Minutes to Maiden, man, they're awesome guys. I actually had a really funny
Are they still going?
Yeah. I
kind of thought I saw their name on a poster or
you know, like
recently.
they're taking it easy right now. I'm not sure of the what exactly their plans are, but again, a cover band is when you have a lot going on in life. That's not something that really takes priority over, say, I mean, your original
a
band.
writing band, yeah, exactly.
You know, so you want to spend and concentrate your time on that rather than, you know, I mean, cover bands are easy and they're not.
One cool thing about a cover band is once you've learned the songs, you're not really going to forget them so much because you can always go back and listen to them.
Right. And here's the problem is I found this is I'm very, very, very super meticulous. I've actually had some, you know, where I started that band, that cover band. I was very like, it's this way or you're not playing it right. You know, like the people will notice, right? The better you play it, the more locked in. And it's not like it's hard to do that. The material's already written.
Yeah, you're playing for fans of, though.
Right.
So they know this shit.
You're not playing your
anybody.
version. And that's the thing with Judas Priest. A lot of guitar players I've jammed with, I mean, like, they were amazing guitar players, but they tend to overdo it. Add notes in where there isn't notes. And that's the genius of, and I have to say, Glenn Tipton's like my favorite guitar player of all time because.
He's a genius.
Oh, yeah. Well, the guy does everything from Painkiller to like. Just anything off the first 4 albums, a little slower or whatever, but he's not afraid to just play a note and let it ring out. He doesn't have to add 10 million
400 other notes.
No, and that's what makes it, that's what gives it more impact, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, back to the whole thing is the funny story. I was traveling with Screaming for Vengeance and 2 Minutes to Maiden, and we went up to Moncton.
Oh, nice.
And we played up there, and it was, I think it was Paramount or something, the name of the place. I can't. Okay. It's the place that used to be a movie theater.
Okay.
And they turned it into a bar, so it was like super high ceilings.
That might be what Capitol Complex is now.
Yeah, massive projection screen in the back, so we had the...
If anybody wants to correct me on that, call in.
Yeah. Phones are ringing off the hook, kids. Yeah. Anyways, no, it's like this massive place with... And there was a snowstorm, too. I remember it was a shitty thing. We were like, we're finally getting out and playing another city in, you know, outside of the province. And on the way up, it was like flying the Millennium Falcon. It was just white, just coming at you. The super good snowstorm, just horrible. Anyways, next day it was a great show. Great show. Like,
sweet.
The audience, people in Moncton were awesome. They're very, you know, inviting. We went to an after
They love
party.
metal up there.
Everybody does, right?
Yeah.
So we had a great time. But the next day we're leaving, and we stop off at a Tim Hortons, and I'm in the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, I gotta use the bathroom. So the guys come in, and there's like, you know, there's like 5 or 6 of us, and we're driving through, and we all decided to stop, and with 5 or 6 of us just into the bathroom because we all got other vehicles. We all went to go do our thing, and I'm in there using the washroom in the stall, and I hear the guys talking, and all of a sudden I went in first. Nobody knew I was in there, right? All of a sudden I hear, oh shit, and they run. Okay, and I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is that all about? And all of a sudden water starts flowing under the stall. They somehow managed to clog a urinal. And I was left in there, and so I come out of the bathroom.
It makes it look like you did it.
I come out of the bathroom, and they're like, man, I was like, the urinal's clogged in there. And they were like, yeah, some poor sucker was using the shitter. And I'm like, that was me, you assholes.
Fuck. What did they clog it with?
I have no idea. Like, I think maybe it was previously screwed up, and they just, through usage, it just got ridiculous. And then, of course, I was the recipient of that. Man, that wasn't fun.
Yeah. Metal bars always have the nicest bathrooms.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Sarcasm.
What's this hole with the duct tape around it? Right?
Yeah, no, that's where you stick your cock and fucking let her go.
Okay. Nah, don't do that.
No, don't.
Speaking of Gus's Pub, there's back a few months ago, I played one of the best shows of my life there. I stood and played guitar for 3 shows for Green Jello.
Yeah, that's right.
The band from
That's a
back
pretty
in
big
the
deal.
90s there that did the
The biggest
Pig.
band in the world.
Biggest punk rock puppet show you'll ever see.
Yeah.
That was quite the experience, man.
I bet you it was.
Bill Manspeaker, the main man, the vocalist, the
brain
conductor
behind it
of
all.
chaos, so to speak. People would ask me, like friends in Halifax when I showed up, they're like, "Oh, you're playing in Green Jello? That's cool." Said, what's it like to be? What am I up against? Like, I just paid some money, decent money to see the show, and they said, "What is it like?" And I said, "It's both simultaneously the worst thing you've ever seen in your life and the best thing."
Yeah.
And I was not wrong, man. It was disorganized, chaotic, but it was the most entertaining thing. The guy. He could just take the worst scenario and turn it into something.
So not
awesome.
to like get behind the curtain too much, but how does that work? Do you have a certain amount of time to learn the songs?
Well, yeah, I had a few months.
Is that what it is?
I had
Like
a few
you-
months to
okay.
learn the songs, and then there was a bit of miscommunication.
You get to
so-
practice with the people that you're playing with?
No.
No. Okay.
Somewhat. So I got Steph Sampson put it on. Actually, he was the promoter. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
So Steph was putting on the show, and he was the promoter for Halifax and Sydney because he does a lot of work up in Sydney. He drives up there. He was just down up there last weekend, I believe, with Brain Fog.
Yeah. He just did
And
a
the Meat
tape
Sweats.
release party.
I'm giving you a plug here, Steph. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, he played in the Meat Sweats and Brain Fog, and they played last weekend. So he's always back and forth between here and Sydney. And I'm from Myra, so every once in a while when I'm in Sydney, I'll hang out with different people. I haven't actually got to see the band Stygia and Sky live, and those guys are awesome. I know those guys, and I've seen videos of them, heard their music, but that is something I've got to catch. But I've also seen Cine Media up there. It's a pretty healthy scene, and it reminds me of the scene back in the 90s. The scene up in Sydney is
Yeah.
like the old, small scene where the punk
like a
rockers
time
and the
warp.
metalheads play together, right?
That's
So,
awesome.
and it's great. So, I mean, if you're ever up there for any reason and you're in that city and there's a metal show or a punk show, go to it.
Yeah.
The
Steph was
Shithawks
saying there's not a lot of
are
venues
really
either.
good. Keith Doom and the Wrecking Crew. There is quite a vibrant amount of music. I think Nova Scotia itself is...
Yeah, I mean, let's not try to segregate Cape Breton from
Well,
Nova
no,
Scotia. It's all one province. but-
No. Don't you mainland
Yeah,
mainlanders.
exactly.
Anyways, no. So the thing about it is, there was a lot of downtime. There's a lot of downtime for Cape Bretoners for sure. I mean, the place is Sydney's not
Well,
what it
it's-
used to be.
they don't have the population
Like,
that we
it's
do
just
around here either.
they used to be industrial, and now it's
Yeah.
just a small town. Really, I mean, it's
Yeah.
shrunk, but it's also really rich with music because it comes from a lot of Scottish families and background, people that play fiddle, people that play an instrument. If you don't play an instrument, you're basically banned from the table at Christmas or something in some
Yeah.
families, right? Like, you might as well get out of here. You got all these world famous...
You got to play something. Didgeridoo or whatever the fuck you got.
Play the spoons, right? That's a thing. So... yeah, and they even have kitchen parties. People get together, they jam in the kitchen, and they sing, and everybody sings, and it doesn't
Yep.
matter if you can sing, just stand in the back if you can't.
Yeah, the
really do it
classic
that
Nova
well.
Scotia kitchen party.
Right, exactly. So you got these people that come from that background, and then you go and create a band, and since there's not as much to do, then that's what you do, music. When I was living with my father up there in my teen years, out in the middle of nowhere, was population of the place I was at was it's called Rocky.
You and
Boston.
your old man.
Me, my old man, and an old man named Alec, and he was in his late 80s then, and his parents spoke Gaelic as a first
really?
language. I lived in the friggin' woods,
Yep.
Anyways, when I was out there, I had the guitar for my 16th birthday, so from then on, every time I
Yeah.
went out there, I would play guitar like the shit out of that thing because I had nothing else to do.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
you get a lot of really good musicians from that area, man, because people are just like, what am I going to do?
They're
Play the guitar.
bored.
And they just, they shred.
Some really good guitar player comes out of
Terratoon
boredom.
Boys. Terratoon Boys are from Cape Breton, right?
Yep.
And they were a hot commodity back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, they helped push and kind of, I think, guide people like the dudes from Holocaust.
So
Definitely
Holocaust is
they're-
actually from Halifax, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly Dartmouth. I believe Troy and Graham and them guys are
Yeah.
all from Dartmouth. And they came to Halifax, and they basically started ripping out these killer tunes, and they were, tighter than most. But
Yep.
that was the difference. They have a lot of thrash in Sydney back in the day, and here in Halifax, it was a little more progressive towards the grindcore.
Grind and a lot of
super
black metal
progressive.
too. I found.
There was a couple black metal bands, but back to the Entrophis and the Dichotic,
Yeah.
and Existential, which was more like grind, but
Yeah.
it was just like more D beats, more blast beats, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't really predominant in the thrash music, and so. I mean,
No, it's more like sped up rock music.
Well, you also had bands like Spasmodic back in the day. That was a really cool band. And there was some weird bands coming out of Sydney, like Panty Line. Oh, yeah, there's some great stuff, man.
Panty Line?
Yeah, there's, Bill Ogna, we call him, or his nickname's Ogna. Bill Davenport, he was a guitar player I knew back then. He's really good.
Sweet.
Like, I know a lot about the scene, between the scenes again, and again, here we were mentioning so many different bands and so many different people, and it's not putting a shout out there. It's just giving awareness to the sheer amount of people.
And I'm sure for a lot of listeners that aren't from around here, it might sound confusing, but that is our point. Is we're just trying to make the point that it's very, very fucking active,
Holy,
and it always has been,
Totally.
and it still is to this day.
More
It's
so.
now to this day, you're going to find there's going to be more deathcore bands coming out, more grindcore, more metalcore bands that a lot of people have stuff against. I personally don't. I enjoy listening to a lot of that stuff. Some people have a lot against anything that says core in it, but that's a lack of knowledge in some people's part because it's not really it's not what you think though. It's not just throwing it in there. But the genres might have changed a little bit. But as far as the heart that's being put into it, it's all still there.
There is a lot of that. Yeah, there's tons, and that's great. There's also what happens with a growing scene is you get I always said there's two types of people that play music. There's musicians and rock stars. Musicians are people that write, they get into music for the passion of it.
Yep.
They want to write music. Rock stars are the guys that they not necessarily are rock stars. Their attitude is shit.
Yeah.
It's just like,
they're
here's our
just
first
looking at
4
the end
songs.
result.
We're the best thing in the world. Prepare for us.
Yeah.
We were talking before this about unknown people that were like that, and it's like, man, you're so arrogant. It just pushes that nobody wants to play shows with them.
No,
they get
it's true.
ousted from the scene, like not because the scene is like a big clique or anything, just because they're so obnoxious.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like
fucking play with
there's bands. I'm not going to start calling people out because
No,
whatever.
they can
But
remain
I will say
anonymous,
this:
'cause
I
we
have
don't
played
need
with
to-
several bands
Yeah.
that I'm like, and they're I don't know what the word even is. They're just plain arrogant.
Yeah.
They'll get out there and they're opening a show for 3 bands that have played fucking hundreds of shows.
Yep.
Maybe dozens, but probably hundreds of shows. And they walk in like, we're better than you. And the only thing that most of these guys that are in the other bands have to say is go fuck yourself.
Right.
We're never going to invite you back on a show because you can't just be humble and shut your fucking mouth and be...
You should look at it as a point of meeting new people, and
It's supposed to be
you're
a social
on a bill
gathering
with bands that are similar to you. So you're like, it's like meeting friends, people with something in common.
There's nothing cooler than walking outside of the bar after a fucking show and having that band chat where all the bands are all out there hanging out, being cool.
A lot of the musicians that I met that were professional over the years, because I do have Fine Grind Studios, and I do help out with friends on shows sometimes. I've helped Bryce with some live shows. I helped, other people. And
we actually never did plug your studio, but Dave,
we
Dave
get
is
to that, and there's still Live Flesh, but we're gonna.
Yeah.
But anyways, big bands that we did Ailstorm there a little while back. That was Morbid Entertainment. There, Justin.
Oh yeah.
And he's a great guy.
I don't know Justin very well. I met him once or twice.
Justin's a great guy, man, and he brought Ailstorm here to Halifax, and I was like super stoked because I love them, man.
I wish I
Even
had got
from-
to see them.
Yeah, but you're being from Cape Breton, and it's like, kind of like that kind of music. So I
It's
was
fucking
really-
pirate rock, pirate metal.
pirate metal, man. It was awesome.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
good.
just a good time. Everybody, the whole bar was just, it was like their videos, people was drunk, fucking beer flying everywhere. It was awesome. But anyways, and Justin said, we wanted to, I was like, yeah, because he mentioned, would anybody, he does that. He puts out on Facebook, like, who would like to see this band? And he gets a response, and then he can go, okay.
Based off of that, he'll decide. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of fishing a little bit, right? So I was like, dude, I totally was thinking it was a promotion to try to get them to come, and I actually had messaged and never heard back from them.
Yeah.
But he's got a little bit more pull, like a good rapport, right? So he was in contact with them, and I was talking to him. I said, "Oh, that's awesome, and he was like, "Oh, would you like to work the show?" So I did. I worked the show with him.
What did you do there? Security?
No, I worked there, load in, load out.
Oh, okay.
Even when the bus came, the trees. There was a couple.
So you got
trees.
to meet the beer stealers.
Oh, bud. There was a couple. There was a couple of trees in the front of the marquee that were in the way.
Oh yeah.
I literally got up a ladder and sawed the branches off. They're going to get
Nice.
knocked off by the bus anyway. So rather than damage the bus or leave branches in the road,
Yep.
we trimmed back
That's
the tree,
cool.
and it was property of that place, so it was fine. They obviously doing a favor for the city, anyways. So Justin goes, "Would you like to take them to Walmart and the liquor store?" So I ended up driving half a Aylestorm to Walmart and the liquor store. Pretty quiet guys, but good guys. I got talking to them, and
Yeah.
they're very professional.
Did they call you a
super nice.
fucking wanker?
No,
Fuck you.
They didn't.
You're a fucking wanker.
No, they were like pretty professional guys. I'm sure they get bombarded with people asking them a bazillion questions.
Oh,
and
yeah.
fanboying them. So I was just like, hey, like, I knew too from being on tour myself and doing things like when you're sick and tired of people going up, "Yeah, man, that was awesome," or "Oh, you like." They probably just want to have a conversation,
Yeah,
like
for
anybody
sure.
else. So I talked to them, I drove them around, told them about the city, came back.
Have they ever been here before?
Nope,
No,
First
first time. And that's kind of
And they
cool for
want-
them too,
they
because
definitely want to come back, and so does Green.
so
Zone.
they're from Ireland, right?
Scotland. Well, Chris is from Perth, Scotland, I believe, but I think Elliot, he said he was from England. And
Okay, so they're kind of from all
yeah,
over.
the
All
guitar
UK
player,
guys.
he's from Belgium or something like that.
Oh,
And,
really?
Yeah, they're a little international. I mean, they
That's
started
cool.
off in Scotland, but eventually it's just like any other band, like members come and go. And
Yep.
but anyways, back to being on the road and meeting people and professionalism in on the road. They were it. They were good guys. But this is where I'm kind of like leading off to. We played a show, Thy Flesh Consume. Played a show, and it was on, I think it was like a Sunday night or one of these off nights. We go on tour, you pick and you're a band that's barely known or semi-known. We were touring with Fuck the Facts, believe it or not. They ended up,
Love them.
this is way back when both bands were like barely known.
Pretty new.
In fact, they chose to play with us. So,
yeah. Pretty new to the scene, both
yeah,
of us, though,
we were all pretty new to the scene. So, there's me and Gerald Smith and Dan Jameson, and at the time it was Randy Jedry in the beginning, and Peter Mestry.
Okay.
Peter being our vocalist.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we were playing the show, and I can't remember the band, but a lot of bands, some bands in Quebec have this had at that point had an avant-garde look. Like these guys showed up on stage. I can't remember the name of the band. I wouldn't tell you if I did, anyways. But they all showed up on stage dressed in the same damn outfit. Like it was all black T-shirts, collars on the.
They all matched.
Yeah, they matched. It was a gimmick, right?
Yeah.
And they're
like the Black
they
Man
played.
group.
Oh, they played.
Only.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they played,
They're not pantomimes.
and then at the end of it, the drummer got up, and there might have been 10 people in the audience, and I'm talking 10, probably including us. It was an off night, like it happens when you're on tour
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
a new band. You can't fill every night with
Yeah,
it. You
yeah.
get up playing
Everybody
the
plays
good
some
shows every
empty
night
shows.
and that's the other thing too. You're in a place like Toronto or Montreal, and you're a new band from the East Coast. There's like Cannibal Corpse playing that night. You know, everybody's going to go see that, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, this guy, this drummer from this band gets up and he takes his sticks and he's like, fuck you guys. And he throws the sticks out, like, throws them out, like threw them out and almost hit Peter. So we played, and then Pete did the best and most awesome thing I've ever seen anybody do. At the end of the show, he goes, "Where thy flesh consume, we'd like to thank you, or have a good night. We'd like to thank you for coming." And he gets out on the audience and shakes the hand of every individual,
Nice.
which took about half a minute.
Yep.
But
That's
he was
cool,
like,
though,
thank you, right? Because and it was just for two reasons, to show, you know, like, it doesn't matter how many people are there. It's treat it like it's a fucking rehearsal.
Those
man.
people that are there gave a shit.
They paid money.
Yep. Oh,
They may have crossed town to see that band or your band, and they were, you know, maybe they were keen on some new upcoming tunes and a band they heard, and they loved you. And who wants to travel halfway across the city on a bus to have a drumstick thrown at them?
Yep, for sure.
You know, like, calm yourself. Like,
And we're back. And joining us now is the lovely Jen.
Hello.
hello, Jen.
So,
Hello.
yeah, where were we at? We were talking about...
Etiquette of the road.
Yeah. So, anyway, Dave, you've been, you know, a busy fucking guy over the years, doing a ton of different shit, which is cool.
All of the things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to keep track of it all, you know. I do in a recording studio now, Fine Grind Studios, and you're just still trying to get things really rolling with that. And it's I haven't had the time to do anything. Bryce Holland Audio has been doing most of the recording out of there, and he's doing a great job. I just wish I'd get in there myself more often, but
Yeah.
he's the dude, so he's got her under control.
It's rough.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, doing a lot of construction down there and fixing things up, and
Yeah.
it's not one thing to. It's one thing to create, say, a business. It's another thing to build it from the bottom up, like literally every sound panel. Being an electrician, I wired a bunch of stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's just insane, and I didn't even have time to like go over the DAWs too much yet. But I'm learning as I go. It's a process. But I work. I've been hanging out with Bryce and my friend Drew and learning things a lot. And the whole point, and this probably sounds weird to you, like, say, professional recording, engineers, that a guy's talking about not knowing how to run the DAWs properly in his own studio. The reason being is that, I sat down with Bryce and Drew a few years ago, and we said, there's one thing I want to do, and that's to make a difference in the music scene here.
That's what
And
we're
there's
trying
no
to do.
right, because there's no real recording space for it. It's like
No, there isn't.
studios
There's a
that
few
do other
small
types
studios.
of music. Well, they do. That's my point. They do other types
Yeah.
of music. They like fiddle music and this, that, and the other thing. You had a metal band in there, and they're like immediately baffled on what
Yeah.
the
I
method
mean,
to recording.
I think I've
a
actually
412
mentioned Jeff
cabinet
before on here.
is, like cranked to the nines or with some form of distortion on like a, like a focus, not focus, just, I won't say the brand name. Anyways, just a higher end piece of gear that's just loud,
The name he was going to say, not a sponsor.
Yeah.
But that's like I mentioned on the pod before, Jeff, who did our last recording, is fucking a genius.
Yeah.
So smart. But he's not a metal guy. And I think there was a lot.
He's
it was
an
a
old
lot
school
of
metal guy.
Yeah.
And what we are doing now, the type of metal
It's
now,
very
just
far
like-
removed.
So, there's a lot more things there's far more compression on things these days.
Yeah.
And Jeff is Jeff Mason, by the way. He,
That is his last name.
yes.
Okay, I don't think I've
See, the
think of
thing
his
is,
last
the
name last
studio.
time.
The studio is basically a Soundcraft 800B board and a bunch of other stuff that went to it. Quite capable.
Yeah.
Of recording,
Which is what you
And
have as an
this is
800B.
the board. But Dan, our guitar player, Jeff was selling the gear.
Right.
And
Yes, because Jeff used to own a store.
he used to own a store, and he was selling the gear. He needed to move into his house, kind of like downsize. And Dan was well, Jeff's selling his gear. Should we get it? And I said, dude, you should buy that. I at the time didn't have the job I have now, so I didn't have the money for it at the time.
Like you didn't already get it?
Yeah, no.
Dan, get over there and fucking get it.
Yeah, right. So Dan purchased it, and one of the reasons I said is like, look, if you buy this studio at this price, like this gear, it's a little older gear, but it is analog. It sounds great.
Oh, it does.
Sounds so good. Anyways,
it's repairable as well. It's
point-to-point solder. If there's a problem with it,
it's real easy to fix.
Yeah, pull it out, out a channel. You fix it. It's
the cards are probably getting harder to find, but you can buy them.
No, you can find them.
Yeah,
it's not.
You can't
hard
buy them new though, can you? From Soundcraft,
they were such a good product that there was quite a lot of them back in the day.
Yeah,
or they could be used for both studio and live recording situations.
My
and I'm pretty sure
actually owns one.
Oh yeah, see, there you go.
And I had considered just mentioned that to you, and I was going to talk to him. I don't know if he still has it.
Just buy it for parts, right?
He used to work for Joel Plaskett as a recording and tech or something for him.
See if they're even using it, right? Like,
and if he's not using it, maybe I'll talk to him.
Label stuff. But yeah, so
Kyle.
So, anyways, the thing is with the older gear and stuff. I said, Dan, let's buy. It's a good price. Buy it because let's think of it this way: you're going to spend X amount of thousands of dollars recording an album with someone as an engineer. Jeff stated that if we bought the gear, he would love to record us.
And he did. He came down and helped us out with us.
We spent the money it would have taken to record an album and coming out with just the album and came out with an album and the studio.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out pretty awesome.
So, so Dan didn't have the time to run the studio, and I was like, how am I going to do this? And because I wanted to get off him. He was like, I'm going to sell it, and he said, I offer to you for first.
I don't think Dan buys anything without the intent of selling it.
No, guy's pretty good at making a bargain. But anyways, so he had the studio, and I bought that off of him, and I got it for pretty much the same price. But he wanted some work done on his house, and being an electrician, I did the work on his house. He paid me. I paid him back the money for the studio. We made a trade, right?
Yeah.
So bingo bango. Next thing you know, I've got the gear in my hand. And I said, okay, I can't run this gear. So I went to my friends Bryce and Drew and said, listen, man, I got this gear. We have this opportunity to, Bryce already had Holland Audio, and he's going around. He's still to this day doing lots of live sound.
Oh,
he's
recording setups.
The gear,
radio stations and everything.
The guy, he's A1. So I said, and Drew, he's used to play in Metallian, well-known band out of Montreal.
Yeah.
And he's his own personal projects here, like Drunken Drew was one of them. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, he used to play the Bad Lads too.
Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely a decent drummer and a well-rounded musician. He plays the bouzouki and guitar and bass, and so yeah. And he's an old friend of mine from way back in high school. So the three of us sat down, and I was like, guys, let's do something to move forward things in the scene, because again, you go to a studio, you pay a bunch of money, and you ask for something. This is a problem I had with Die Fleisch Consume.
Yeah.
Not a problem I ever had with that band. It's just a problem that we ran into, is recording with people who had no clue and never heard that caliber of...
They don't know...
Caliber, I call it, but...
They don't know what you want to hear either.
Right.
I was... For anyone who's not watching, which is everyone, I just tapped on my head when I said that.
Listening.
Anyways, someday we'll have video. We don't have video now, but eventually we're gonna have a Patreon.
We have ear video.
We're gonna start a Patreon program eventually.
Close your eyes and pretend you know what we look like.
$400 a month, and you can get a video.
There you go. Yeah. Wow, jeez. So
$3 a month for you, Dave.
No, $500 for me. Up the price. So anyways, the scene, like where you guys are doing this podcast, I think it's amazing, because here is a city with, as far as I know, this is the first heavy metal representation of, or hard rock, or punk rock localized podcast that is done every week in the city.
Thanks, man. I mean, we're trying to get our name. We're trying to get our city out there as a name. Well,
that's the thing too. You play music in a certain spot for years and years and years. Either a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, tend to get out of it you know, like eventually they phase out. You know, you see the old punk rockers that used to glue their hair into these giant mohawks, and now they're like rockabilly people.
Yeah, they
That's
switch
what happens
over
to punks when
stuff.
they get old. They morph
turn
into this
into rock and roll.
rockabilly thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, rockabilly's like the punk,
Old guy
like,
punk music.
It's like the punk of rock music, kind of in a way.
Well, it's just.
I've been to a couple rockabilly shows.
It's like death metal people just end up listening to thrash.
It's definitely not.
They move around.
It doesn't float my fucking container ship, but
There are some good
there's
I'm
some talent
really Pete Green, who runs Rockopolis and other
okay.
rehearsal space. Oh, by the way, we're at the
now,
we're
is
at the
that-
Church of Destruction, which is Mike Atwell's place. So there's a
Yeah.
couple of places, and that's awesome.
Some know
too.
him as Mingus.
Yeah, there's a couple of really, really cool places to rehearse in the city. So
What's the place that was on? What's the name of the street right by Willow Tree there?
Willow Tree?
Like by the
Off of Quinpool?
like Quinpool.
Oh,
Was that Rockopolis?
no. Rockopolis is.
Because
Okay,
I remember
no.
seeing Cicada Jam down there.
The Rockopolis is across from Music Stop, it's not Music Stop anymore.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We used
I
to
know
call it
about
Music Gestapo because the prices were great.
that. Yeah, but it's not now.
Yeah.
Try to get
Who
a
pays
you
this
can't
much
try
for
to
a
get
microphone?
Can't
Or
try
you
to
will
get a
not
deal
sing.
from that tyrant corporation now.
No, they're fine now. It was worse then. It was
I don't
worse
know.
trying
I
to
liked
get a
it
piece
back
of
in the
gear.
day.
They
I liked it back in the day
still
'cause I knew the
don't carry
guys, though.
certain brands that I like BC Rich.
They don't carry BC Rich.
No, sir. You have to order BC Rich through someone else.
Oh,
No fault of their own. I'm
shit.
sure that's a contract given between the parent company.
Yeah,
and
L&M
whatever
just
else.
can't
Yeah,
get the
they-
whatever. Right?
Yeah, you can't there are some. It's not necessarily their fault. There's some, and that's another thing. Look, we're in Halifax. You want to get a BC Rich, you have to order one from away.
We used to have some cool music stores. Like being a pianist, I miss the Lollies and the Buckleys because
Oh,
Yeah, see, those are
Buckley's
piano-
music is gone. I don't know.
Lolly's music.
Buckley's is gone. No,
Yeah.
Lolly's no. Sorry,
Lolly's has
Buckley's
been
is
gone for a
Yeah, I know
while.
Buckley's was gone.
I think Lolly's
that was
was-
the one that was off of Quimple, and the jam spaces for that were there.
Yeah, I think Lolly's was more of like a sheet music store, though, wasn't it? They didn't do a lot of instrument.
I don't know. I got
Or
a
if they
lot
did,
of,
it was like woodwind.
I got a lot of like my the music for young children stuff there.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and the Royal
They
Conservatory music
had
stuff there.
Band store.
thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of music books. Like if you just wanted to pick up something to like play the guitar to,
Yeah.
they had so much fucking shit there. It was unbelievable.
See,
I
that's-
actually grew up down the road from the person who owned Lolly's. And
Well,
I think
here's the
she
thing,
passed
one of those
away,
places-
and then
yeah.
nobody was
I
there
just
to
remember
take the
that was the
store.
one.
Those
in
places
Quinpool?
shut down. It's devastating to
It
the
is.
lake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It
Like
sucks.
to a small. Halifax is only almost half a million people.
Yeah.
I think somewhere's around there, which is
Yeah,
a lot of people.
Probably
You-
about 400,000, yeah.
Yeah, 400 and some odd thousand last I checked a few years ago.
And we know
Anyways.
every single one of those people, by the way.
Who's your father, by? Anyways, yeah, like Sydney's 30 something thousand.
Oof! Wow.
Yep.
I never really thought about that.
It's not that many.
That's a huge
Not CBRM, but Sydney itself. It's not a lot of people there. So you got to think if you got your main music conglomerate there, and then you have Uncle Joe's music store, and he fucking shuts down.
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts to see, man. For a while, it hurts because you want to order that guitar that the big one doesn't carry, right? And you're out. You're SOL.
So what happens now? Just sorry to go back to
You
this,
get a
but what
BC
happens
Rich
if I
pulled
want a
onto it.
Warlock?
yeah, you have to. Basically,
Do I have to go to BC Rich and order it?
No,
you can order it through.
Well, no, you get the internet now, bud. You can order online.
Yeah, I
But
know,
if you want to get like a custom from BC Rich, you have to get it from BC Rich. Yeah,
I
like
always
you have
never really
you have to
thought about that.
contact the company if you want to get. You can't just go through a music store to
Because
get
it's weird. You can go in and buy all kinds of crazy stuff at Long McQuaid. Like we keep calling it music stuff.
Yeah.
Fuck. Anyways, but
Again, not a sponsor.
yeah, well, they're not a company anymore. So
Long
Nate,
McQuaid is,
nobody
though.
Nate Miller's got my old
yeah, no.
BC Rich Mockingbird.
They are getting a plug,
through
though.
NJ, and I should have never sold you. If you listen to that, you bastard, I should have never sold you that guitar. It was so good. Oh, it was like it played like a dream. I had all these other guitars with vibratos and all the locking, and that thing was just like straight up, boom.
basic
bridge.
worked.
It was, but it
Yeah.
played so well.
Is the private music store in Sackville still open? Because they deal a lot in really nice
The
guitars.
one where you knock on the door and the little thing slides, and they're like, "What's the password?"
Yeah.
The one under Arby's.
What was it called? Family Music?
I don't know. Where was it?
It's Family Music. It's in one of the strip malls on Sackville Drive.
Ooh, geez, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to take a drive tomorrow.
You guys should, yeah. So, yeah, anyways,
See if it's still there.
support your local small music
Yeah,
store.
do it.
You
Yeah, 'cause
never
they
know when
disappear
it's going to
fast,
come in
yeah.
handy.
And you
right?
never know when they're going to go fucking tits up, because that's what happened to Music Stop. They didn't really go tits up, I guess. The guy who owned it, Bruce, sold the company, which good for him, man. He probably sold it for a giant pile of money. But
I know Bruce's son.
do you?
Bruce Chapman?
Yeah, I met Bruce once.
I went to high school
because I used
with
to
his
work
son,
for
Peter,
them.
who he's in music. He writes music for like video games and movies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I used to actually play Warhammer 40K with Pete back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Now me and my girlfriend's son are starting to play it again, so it's very metal.
But yeah, I used to work for Music Stop when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
And one day they're like, "Hey, just so you know, the owner of Music Stop is here." And I'm like, and I'm all nervous.
there
and
all the time, man.
stuttering. Well, he wasn't at my store a lot. I was at the Bedford store.
Bedford store, yeah.
And I was like stuttering, and I'm walking up, and I'm like, "It's really nice to meet you." And he's like, "Hey, man, it's all right. It's cool. Nice to meet you." He was a super nice guy, and
Oh, yeah.
he just
No, he's
chatted up
totally
with you
chill.
for like half an hour.
It's pretty funny to think that like somebody else in the world listening to this podcast right now go, "Two music stores? What kind of fucking city do these people live in?"
Yeah, really.
They probably picture us in like, fishing shacks with dories.
Well,
instead
it's
of
like any
cars,
of the
but
people. Like
a dory's a boat, by
if
the
you
way.
think about it, if you were to go to New York, like Metropolis,
Oh,
how
you
many
just
fucking
catch the
music
subway
stores
and you're
are
at
there?
the next music store.
How many
you
is
know,
there? There's got to be 100.
hundreds.
I would assume.
New
I've
York's
never been to New
21
York.
million.
We're going
pe-
soon
New
for a
York's
visit,
21
but-
million people, which is a lot bigger, 40 times bigger than.
Yeah, 40 times bigger than our city.
I think that's
Over
the other
40.
goal with this podcast.
So
Like,
that's-
we miss a lot of really good bands coming here because of how, like, nobody even half the
Because they
people
don't get the
even know
ticket
where we
sales
are.
that they want.
It's sometimes the first stop on the tour.
Like, we've had some cool bands here, but in
Because
the
you
last
hit-
like 20 years,
Yeah, they get their
eh.
flight to Halifax and then they head from here to Moncton to Montreal and
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
There's been some big
Lucky to
ones.
get that kind of stuff sometimes, but in the other way, they stop and they say, I'm not going that far.
But then
Yeah.
take for example Metallica. They've been in the city 2-3 times maybe,
I
Like
know they
twice-
played the Hill,
twice
and
at
I saw
least.
them in the 90s,
Which
with
is
the
cool.
Snake Pit and the Black
It's
Album.
so cool that they've been here. And Slayer's been here twice.
Yep.
In Flames has been here at
Funny
least
story
once.
about that concert.
But just hold up,
Yeah, sure.
because that's the thing is like we say that it's like, oh well, no, Metallica's been here. Go, how many times do you think fucking Metallica plays in L.A. or New
I
York?
think they've been here 3 times.
Like,
Once during like the
every
Master
year,
of
a few
Puppets
times.
tour or something, and
Yeah.
then again in Black Album, and then again on the Hill.
Yeah.
Like, we had Judas Priest twice. We had Iron Maiden once. Like, in
That
like
was way back
89
in the
or
game.
something.
That was 80s, yeah. That
But
was
do you
way
really
back.
want 10 million people living on this little peninsula?
It's not about that. Just come
That would be
play
pretty
your music.
crazy.
Back
for
to
us.
the Metallica thing, though, when I saw the Black Album concert, and me and Jason Lawler, drummer for Burning Moon and drummer for Igniter, Dan's other band,
and Vacant now.
Vacant
And
as well, yeah.
They're still a thing.
Yeah, they're still a thing.
going. Yeah.
Anyways, me and Jason were like teenagers. So he's like my best friend. So we were 16 years old or 15 years old and went to that concert in 90, whatever, maybe even younger.
Yeah.
And the guy beside us smoked the biggest joint he could.
Awesome.
And how at the beginning of the concert, they did a tribute to Cliff Burton.
Oh yeah.
Like this big screen comes down. It's like, then blah, blah, blah. Cliff Burton was killed in a bus accident. Blah, blah. Buddy passed out at that point and missed the whole fucking concert.
Oh,
no.
fucking.
Buddy just put his face in his hands
No
and just
good.
went to sleep for the rest of the concert. Me and Jason are like headbanging every once in a while. I look over and I'll elbow Jay, be like, look at this motherfucker.
It's
He's
cool to get
asleep.
high and go to a show, but you just missed like an amazing
He was
thing.
facing
man.
the floor, hands out, face in his hands. Didn't
Ugh.
catch a bit of it, man.
Damn.
We had to stand on our seats to see that shit.
Yeah.
Like, what was the point?
Is that
Yeah.
at the Metro Center?
Yeah, it was.
I've never been a big time Metallica fan. I can't say I don't like them. I just have never really followed them. But I
At
would.
that
I would
point,
love
they
to
were
see them.
still
I'd
a
still
big
even
ball
today.
of flame. You know what I mean?
Even
But
still, I'd love
after-
to see them.
And this is personal opinion. After that, I really didn't dig them at all. I was just like,
Most people
and
say
it
the
wasn't the
Black Album is a
haircuts.
sellout
It
album.
wasn't the haircuts. I don't care about that. It was the dumbing down of the music. I found. I grew up listening to like the grittiest of rock albums, you know, like Appetite for Destruction. I don't listen to a whole lot of Roses after what's his name there left there, Izzy Stradlin. Basically, that's my rule.
When I was a kid,
Izzy
I was
Stradlin,
a pretty
once
big
he was
Guns N'
gone,
Roses fan.
a lot of people don't look at it that way, but if you really think about once he's gone, out comes the spaghetti incident, and then it goes downhill from there.
Yeah.
Is Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 good? And this is, again, personal opinion, but I had albums like that. And then it's like, can you even think of an album these days that compares to any of that stuff in a rock element that had that many hits or that? And not just hits, though. They weren't hits because they were just there.
Probably something that
they
Sam
were hits
Roberts
because they
is
were
doing.
well written. It's amazing how much that band had their shit together musically at that point.
Yeah.
And it's and again, back to the whole thing about contracts and having to be forced to write your music under a time constraint. That's what I think crushes bands. So being in this scene and having bands that can take their time and are little well known, you know, like that's good because you can push out stuff at your own pace. And you just should push it out quick enough that your audience has something new to listen to.
Yeah.
Right? I just rediscovered Cattle Decapitation tonight. We were talking about that.
I've seen that on, you
I was
posted
like,
something. I love them
I
guys
hadn't
so
listened to them
much.
so long, and I didn't realize they had those weird little. It almost sounds like BG Aliens. That's
He's
what I
an
was like.
amazing fucking singer.
It almost sounds like he's doing a BG Aliens, like in there somewhere. But I was just like, okay, can I handle this?
It's so
as it went
different,
on, I
though.
was
It's
like,
cool.
This is fucking great.
Yep. No,
This
I
is
love it.
actually genius because it fits. At first, I was like, this is a tragedy. No pun intended. But anyways, as it went on, I was like,
Bring back the plague 2020.
Right. Well, it might be happening. Anyways, so,
Yeah.
you know, like the music is subjective, but it always had been. And a lot of popular music in the past was based off of fan base.
Yep.
People would listen, you know, like there was, but now music is controlled. For a prime example would be, you know, someone walks into a room and there's a song playing on the radio and it's like, here's the new number one hit this week. New number one hit. How come this shit, how did it climb in 1 week over all of America to be this popular? There is no fucking way that everybody in America heard that artist that put out that album 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even a month before, and it got that popular that quick. It's produced. It's mass produced. It's shoved out there, and you're told that it's the top.
So there's a band right there. They don't fall into any type of a subgenre.
Who's that?
Cattle Decap.
Oh,
They are considered to be an extreme metal band, which that does not
alien
define them as anything.
bovine
really.
decapitation metal. But
Yeah, well, I mean, they're
just
vegans.
genre.
They're all
I
about
kind of get that vibe.
how much. Well, they're all about how much humans are destroying the planet. That's basically it.
They're not wrong.
No, and it's true.
Such a
Very true.
weird subject for a metal
Which
band.
is funny because
But
you know Carcass,
you
one of
gotta
my
have
favorite
some-
bands of all time.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they started
Totally.
out doing.
Yeah,
Like, that
and
was-
Exhumed
Exhumed
picked
is
up
another
where
one.
Carcass left off in
exactly.
a different way. Not the whole, not the same.
Which exciting news
yeah.
came out today, by the way, about Carcass.
They're getting another album.
July 17th, I think they said. It's coming out. I can't fucking wait. Oh my god.
I always thought since I was a teenager that Bill Steer was one of the most underrated guitar players of all time.
Incredible.
And it really, really hit me right in the feels back then when I read Guitar Magazine had come out with the top 100 guitar players, and he was in there. And
Yeah.
it said that he was like severely underrated and everything. This is when Heartwork came out, and him and Mike Ammett were doing the stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that
was
guy
back
is,
in the Ammett days.
yeah. Actually, it's really funny because I've learned about Carcass. There used to be a TV show, a British comedy. It was a sci-fi comedy called Red Dwarf.
Okay, I think
If
I've
you
heard
guys
of it
remember
before.
that,
I
it was
remember Red
about the
Dwarf,
guy. The story was hilarious about a guy, this loser, basically this slob in space with where his entire crew gets killed, and he's stuck with a hologram of the most annoying crew member, and the evolution of a cat, which is basically this guy that talks like James Brown, right? And a stupid android, and so they
have to find this now. and
Oh,
watch
you
it.
gotta watch it. It's an amazing show. It's a little campy and old, but when you get into it, it's the fucking humor is amazing. Like they go drinking together one night because they're celebrating someone's birthday on the ship, and they find like a police lady's hat, and they're like, "There's no police women on the ship. Like it's a fucking ship in the middle of space that's been like was irradiated and floated around for 300 years. Like, where the fuck does this shit come? Anyways, they had a scene where they had a slide, like radiation got into a set of slides that you put on a projector. Obviously dated, but when they put the slide in the projector and projected on a screen, they could step into the picture. Right?
Oh, okay.
And one of the things they did is Buddy wanted to make himself famous by going back in time and giving his younger self this thing called tension sheet. And all it was bubble wrap painted red with the word tension sheet on it. So
okay, I am definitely going to find this shit.
Oh yeah, he goes back in time and he's playing, and he plays in a band with his band was called Smeg and the Heads. So he's trying to teach his younger self that this is the way to get rich. And the two other members in his band were Bill Steer and Jeff Walker from Carcass. And they were on that show. And I was like, who are those guys? And then I looked into it, and I was like, oh. And then I started listening to Carcass.
Yeah, I've always, ever since the first note I heard Carcass play, I was like, okay, this is my bag right here.
I love Carcass, too. I find them very quiet sounding, but I really
Which you don't like a lot of grindcore. But
no, but I do like Carcass.
Now, it's funny because that, to me, is like, people say it's grindcore, and I'm like, okay, it is. I get that. But it is like the origins. Like, it's the basics of grindcore.
Well,
they have a very
blast beats.
Yeah,
I mean, if you sit down and see, you don't like grindcore from back in the day because it was ill produced. So was fucking black metal when it came out.
So was a couple of Carcass albums
because it was a new type and genre of music and nobody had recorded it yet. So it was like amateurs recording the first shit, right?
I mean, the first Carcass album was so badly produced that the band themselves didn't like it.
Napalm Death,
they were
same thing.
Pissed.
Like it was low production, but it gained enough popularity that they made a little bit of money from touring and stuff, and they just stepped her up.
Yep.
And that was that was a stigma I always hated with black metal, as people were like, "This black metal album sounds too good." And I do like the aspect of the old school Dark Throne, like the simplicity and the ambience of old school black metal. There's a place for that. But, like, when a well-produced black metal band comes up and someone's shitting on it, I'm like, but you can hear what they're doing.
Yeah, you do it. Don't shit on them because it's better. Fuck, that drives me fucking nuts. People are like, oh, it's overproduced. No. Well, it's produced.
Again, yeah, exactly. Back in the day when they couldn't produce. When you look at it back in the day in the first couple of Burzum albums or whatever band, they were low production because they didn't have the facility. Much like we're going on.
They were recording in a fucking studio. Cabin in the middle of the forest in Norway.
It's got to start somewhere. A scene's got to start somewhere. Someone had to pick up the fucking slack and do something, and people do that, man. And that's what the good thing about this is. So the lesson is to, like, if you're in a scene, you can do more than just, like, be a musician.
Yep.
You can.
There's technological sides to it.
Right.
And you know what? Another thing is that if you're going to put your art on a format that people can listen to over and over and over and pick it apart and pick it apart and pick it apart, which is what people do, especially now where you got the internet, and now you don't just have people picking it apart, you have them chatting about picking it apart.
There's too many judgy Karens now about
put
everything.
as much fucking production and as much work into that and make it sound as close to what you want it to be.
Just don't overthink it.
Just don't overthink it. Exactly. But make it sound perfect if that's what you're going for.
Also, another rule in the scene, don't bitch about good bands not coming here if you don't go to the shows.
That is true. That's another thing. If you're not going to buy the tickets, don't fucking complain.
Did you go to the show last weekend and support the local band? No.
Oh, and if I hear...
Okay, so you're just waiting for the big bands.
And if I see one more person say fucking local bands suck, oh my God, I'm going to go through the internet and choke them.
Start a local band.
And
show us how it's done, bud.
Half these people, they'll be like, local bands suck, fuck that shit, I like Metallica. And then you go look at their fucking profile, and it's like, well, what the hell do you got going on, man? Nothing. You have nothing going on, so shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's like...
That is directed towards a million people.
And everything, though, man. Think about baseball, right? People are, oh, blah, 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 should have done this.
Yeah, you can't throw a ball to save your fucking life.
Right. This pitcher should have done this in the last play instead of done this. It's like, in the heat of the moment, on that mound, when that guy's throwing that ball, he has to make a split decision. He or she have to make a split decision.
Exactly. And these people that are saying that don't understand.
Then they get judged to shit if it's the wrong one, right? So it's like...
These people that are saying local bands
Shut
suck
the fuck
too,
up.
they have no idea what it is like to do the thing, to get up on the stage. Even if there's 3 people
When you
on a
first get
Wednesday
up
night
there,
at
man,
Gus's Pub, which
it's
we've
a
done,
nervous thing.
it's still...
Yeah.
It's actually especially worse when you're playing in front of a bunch of people that know you. It's even worse because you know you got to talk to them next weekend.
Yeah.
Like when it's people you don't know that are drunk, half the time I'm just like, I don't give a fuck what these people think.
I mean, heck, you guys played for like me and my mom and like 2 other people.
Yeah, and I mean we played.
We've also played in front of 100 people.
We played.
Yeah.
We played for Nikki and Jason Lawler.
Yeah, down at the spot.
At Gus's
Augustus. Oh,
on a
Jesus.
Wednesday night.
Oh.
It was Nikki and Jay. That was one of the first shows you did with us.
Holy crap. Yeah.
But
They're a lot better now.
yeah, we should probably be wrapping this up. We could chat with you for fucking hours about metal.
We should do another one.
We'll have to do another one.
I could, but I have content for days.
Anytime, buddy. You're welcome. You're welcome back.
Sweet.
But yeah,
And I'll try to be there for the whole thing this time.
head my way and we'll do it at the studio maybe sometime.
I don't have any personal date plugs for our band because we don't really. Oh yeah, we do.
We
but,
might have one coming up, but it's tentative because we're waiting to hear on other bands.
Well, there's another
I think
band.
there's
I
like one or
just
two
heard
that are
some
looking to
bad
fill
news that one of them just fucking broke up, and they're on our bill, so they got to figure something out. They either got to get back their 2 members that they lost, or we got to find another band.
I don't want to know. Tell me after the podcast so I could cry off the radio.
Yeah, we'll talk about it off there. But there is a show. There is a show this Saturday at Gus's Pub. It's called Leap Year Extravaganza, and it is.
Pretty sure we talked so much we didn't wrap up half our conversations.
We might not have.
Whatever.
But, yeah. If it feels scattered to you
Just call
guys,
us on
like,
our shit.
send us a message on our socials and bitch about it, and we'll probably just not tell you that we give a shit. But
Yeah.
we might tell you that we give a shit because honestly, anybody who's listening, we appreciate the attention that you're giving us, and we appreciate your support. So Leap Year Extravaganza is this Saturday, February 29th at Gus's Pub and Grill at starting at 10, which is the usual. It's an $8 show. It is featuring Orchid's Curse, the Combine, which actually I'm reading here is their first show in Halifax since relocating from
Okay.
St. John's, Newfoundland. So they're a Newfie band, which is cool. Newfie's always been into the metal too, man.
Yes, bye.
It's a little known fact, but there's always been some cool bands coming from up there.
Lord Tundra.
And Hitman and Dark Shrine are also on that bill. Get down there and support these guys, man. Like, like we've been talking about, that's the best thing anyone can do is try to show up at the shows. It's only $8. It's a cheap night of entertainment for you, and Gus's is a cool place.
Yeah, $8. Not really a whole lot of reason to complain there. I know some people do complain about the price, but if you think about it, that's $2 per band.
They complain because it used to be $5, and it's like, well, $5, nobody made any money.
Do anything in this world for payment for $2 an hour. And if there's 10 people there, you're $20 an hour, and that's between 5 people. So the math really is shit. You don't make a lot of money as a band. And
Here's your 75.5 cents. Here's your 75.5 cents.
And then you got to realize these people, they got to live off of merch and all those other things. So, yes, tip your band.
And actually, I'm doing this in
enjoy the music.
the wrong order, but this Friday at Gus's at the same place in Halifax.
The one with the nice bathroom.
Yeah, the one. Right. Don't stick your dick in that hole. Featuring, there's a show there. Oh, well, there, I guess I should put my foot in my mouth here because it's a $6 cover on this one. And anyways, Shadow of Everest is hosting this show.
Good rock band.
And Only Vultures Left is there.
Oh, that's Matt Smith and them guys. There,
Yep,
though,
that's
that is
Matt
actually a really, really. We
Jen knows
recorded
Matt
them
pretty
at
well.
Bryce recorded them at Fine Grind.
And
They're great.
Record Year, which is a pop punk based band from Dartmouth.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of them. I don't know their stuff very well. And of course, Novichok, which we know well. And we know
Novichok's
we know
playing?
the gentleman in Novichok, and they're an old school thrash band from Halifax. They've been around forever.
Are they headlining?
They can slam. I don't know.
Hard to tell.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Go
from
look
this.
on the Facebook page. Gus's Pub. There you go.
Yeah, I mean they were they started out as a cover band. Novichok did originally.
Yeah, pretty much. We played in Lindsay's basement once. One of the first times I played with you
Yeah,
guys.
fuck, that's right, we did too.
Played in his basement.
So yeah, we played in their guitar player's basement, and he's one of the finest right there. I'll tell you. You're hearing it here first, folks.
I'm the godfather of their child.
And
Good guy.
oh,
Hey,
cool.
really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, get down there and check those guys out
They're
too.
regretting that one.
That's a fun metal-y, rocky, sort of rock, but mostly metal weekend at Gus's Pub. I don't have anything else that's popping up right off the get-go here, but any other shows that we see pop up, we will post them on our Facebook and our Instagram and our...
Supporting the local
Fuck
scene, bud.
Twitter, man. I don't know if anyone's even on our Twitter, but Twitter
Trump
is
is.
such a fucking place for people to bitch and be assholes. I'm almost like...
I thought that was the internet.
No, Twitter is the worst.
People on the internet are 12 feet tall, and
Twitter people
Oh,
are
geez.
the worst. I'm sorry. Like I go on there because I check.
When you
out
think
some
about
of-
it,
some
it's
of the
called
bands.
Twitter because they tweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Birds
But anyways, check out our Instagram. We try to post some funny fucking pictures up
And
there
our
every now
Facebook.
and then. And our Facebook too.
Should be a slingshot icon on Twitter.
It should be. It should be real. It should pop rocks right out through your screen and
Yeah.
pop people in the forehead.
Tweet this
Or
mother.
like a punt icon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah,
Rotisserie.
guys, check out our Instagram is @gettinghardpod. I think I should make sure I'm saying that right. No, our Instagram is Getting Hard Podcast. Our Facebook is @GettingHardPod, and our Twitter is @GettingHardPod. If you give a fuck about that angry shit fest.
Someone doesn't like Twitter.
And we are on YouTube, too.
We are on YouTube.
There's two whole people that are
Yeah, this pod
checking us out on YouTube.
This pod is available now on 5 different platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Google Play Music, not Google Podcasts, because I've discovered that we can't do that just yet, but we're working on that, and iTunes, and what was the other one I just missed? Oh, and Podbean, of course. That's our host, but yes.
There you
So
go.
yeah, I mean, we can pretty much get you anywhere you want, get you fucking from behind or whatever, however you like it. And
I'm not picky.
someday we will try to get some videos up on YouTube. We're working on that, but it's a slow process, and this is only the 7th or 40th. I don't know how many episodes we're in now.
I think you said 7 or
The
8.
7th.
Yeah, I think it's the 7th episode.
Lucky
but,
number 7. I was born in 77 on the 7th of November, so
Oh, nice.
yeah, I will not give you my credit card number, folks. Stay away.
Or social.
Yeah. Social insurance number is blah 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 777. No.
All right, well, guys, thanks a lot for listening.
Lucky cast.
And Dave, thanks a lot for coming on the pod.
Not a problem. Anytime.
And everybody should have a good week, and we will talk to you next time.
Keep your stick on the ice.
Later.